Michele Alboreto has qualified 21st on the grid, which is the highest he has been this season, ahead of his teammate Luca Badoer. And Badoer was excellent in the warm-up this morning. He was 17th. And the bad news, sadly, is that Scuderia Italia and Lola have decided that they're going to part company this at the end of this year. Indeed, there were even some stories that Lola might not be going to Japan and Australia, but they certainly have to be confirmed. And there are two new drivers here today, because Sandro Zanardi, who had that enormous crash in the Belgian Grand Prix, is still not, Belgian Grand Prix practice, is still not fit enough to drive. And his place is being taken by the Portuguese Formula 3000 driver, Pedro Lamy, who has gone steadily and sensibly in practice. And Thierry Boutsen has retired from Formula One since the Belgian Grand Prix and has been replaced by the longest running driver in Formula 3000, Marco Apicella, the Italian, who's going to partner Rubens Barrichello, the Brazilian, in the Jordan team here at Monza. So there you see the grid unrolling in front of you, the notable points being that once again Prost is up there in pole position with Damon Hill just behind him, and Jean Alesi in that third place, Johnny Herbert in 7th position. Aguri Suzuki in the footwork is 8th on the grid, and that's an excellent performance.
Yes, footwork team have been steadily improving, in fact, over the last few Grand Prix, making very, very good use of the McLaren active suspension. They're working with the Tag Electronics people, making very good use of it. And that Honda, or rather Mugen V10, has also been going very well, of course, although they will be losing that next year.
Yes, another very significant thing is that Honda, in association with their Mugen partner, have officially announced that they are returning to Grand Prix racing. It was here last year that they announced their suspension of their Formula One activity, a very significant word, not withdrawal, not retirement, suspension. They've been working away ever since, and to the surprise of most people, frankly, they have decided that they are not going to return with McLaren, with whom they had so many successful years from 1988 to 1992, but they're going to throw in their lot with the Lotus team, headed by Peter Collins and Peter Wright, who've done such a magnificent job this year. And it means to say that Johnny Herbert is going to be in there with the shout, and very much so next year. The eyes of Jean Alesi, who always looks very sleepy when he's in this sort of a situation, but don't let it fool you. He really comes alive when the lights turn to green. He's tremendously spectacular. He knows that he's in front of these people, the tifosi, the fanatical Ferrari followers. He encourages them when he was doing his meteoric laps over the last 2 days. On his rundown lap, that's Gerhard Berger, his teammate. Jean Alesi was waving to the crowd, going to the edge of the pit lane and waving to them. And, of course, they love it. And that is the Minardi Ford of Italian Pierluigi Martini. There are 7 Italian drivers in this race now, with Marco Apicella. That is looking from Damon Hill's on-car camera forward. Can't see what's being done any more than you can, unfortunately. And I suspect that's John Russell. No, it's his tyre man. Off come the warmers. Those tyres now, 22 pounds per square inch, 85 degrees, which is race temperature. And Alain Prost, the visor will go down shortly, because we are about to start the parade lap for the Italian Grand Prix, round 13 of the 1993 Formula One World Championship, which could be decided today in favour of the man on the right of your picture, Alain Prost, who needs to finish at least 2 points ahead of Ayrton Senna, provided that Damon Hill does not win. There are other permutations, but that's the most important one.
Yes, as the cars peel away, though, that smoke came from Schumacher with wheel spin. I don't think there's anything more sinister than that. Now, this point is this is the fastest part of the circuit now that you can see, 200 miles an hour once they're racing. That's the first chicane. It's a multiple chicane there, going through first left, right, and then left, right again. That's the Sauber there pulling away. Looks like he's got away late. That's Leto there. Now through that chicane at about 70 miles an hour. Second gear accelerating hard up through the gears through the Curve Grandi. Now the Curve Grandi, which we can see them just coming around now, is 180 miles an hour, 200 miles an hour. It's now down to second gear for the second chicane. Through there at about 60 miles an hour, using a lot of curve. You'll see a lot of that in the race. It's very important to really use the curves well here. This is the first Lesmo, 130 miles an hour in third gear, fourth gear, and then through to the second Lesmo, which is an incredible corner. It's really one of the driver's great favourites. It's one of those corners that's very nearly absolutely flat out, or rather it's certainly accelerating with your foot flat to the floor. That's what a driver means when he talks about a flat corner. They've just been round it, 170 miles an hour on the exit. This is where Alesi and Berger had their accident, just about the point where the cars are now. Berger went off to your right, very fast, about 190 miles an hour. But this is the Ascari chicane. Third gear, turning in at about 100 miles an hour, then hard on the power. And the next part of it, where the cars go right and then left, is again absolutely flat out. The good drivers with the good balance on the car keep the foot flat to the floor and will be coming out of this Ascari chicane at about 150 miles an hour. They're now approaching down to Parabolica, warming up the tyres. You can see the weaving going on there to keep these tyres at that 80-90 degrees, but also warming up the brakes. This is very much a heavy braking circuit, and these carbon fibre brakes need to work at 500 degrees, and the drivers will have their left foot on the brake for much of the time, or the brake pedal heating them up. Here we are on board with Alesi now, coming around the Parabolica corner as the field closes up now to on the main start-finish straight, ready to take the start.
And poor JJ Leto, having worked for the last 2 days to achieve 13th place on the grid, and incidentally he was 8th fastest this morning, will be starting last because he got away last, and you're not allowed to make up places on the parade lap. So leading them up to pole position, Alain Prost on the right of your picture. Slightly to the left behind him is Damon Hill. Behind Prost is Alesi. Behind Hill is Senna. Behind Alesi in the green and yellow Benetton is Michael Schumacher. And on the 6th position on the left-hand side, the third car back, is Gerhard Berger's Ferrari. And they are still coming up to take up their positions, 26 of them, the traditional number of starters in Formula One. Meantime, it's a worrying time for the men in the front because they've been sitting there for some time and seconds seem like hours in that situation. As ever, watch on the right for the man with the green flag who, when the last man is in position, will cross the grid and show Roland Brunchereit, the starter, that it's ready for go. There are the lights. The red, up to 7 seconds later, the green. Now, let's see. Prost gets away well. Alesi is alongside Hill. Senna is behind Alesi. No problem so far. Up into the Rettifilo. It is Prost leading. It looks like Alesi in second place, and it is. And Senna and Hill have contact. And Senna goes off. Senna goes off, and you can see that there's a couple of spinners there. One of them, it looks like Katayama in the Tyrrell. Now, has Damon Hill's race been finished before it has almost begun? Hopefully we'll soon know. Prost is certainly leading. Alesi is in second position. Through the Rogier, that is, there's a big gap before the third place man goes through, and it's Schumacher. Berger is in third position, and Johnny Herbert on the first half of the lap is up into fourth place. Drama and excitement at the Italian Grand Prix right from the beginning, and sadly it looks as though Damon Hill's problem was a major one. I don't know any more than you do at the moment. So, we're now down to the Ascari Benz that used to be the Vialoni. I believe Damon Hill is still running. It's Prost, Alesi, Schumacher third, Berger is fourth, Johnny Herbert is fifth, Martin Brundle is sixth, Patrese is seventh, Andretti is well up and looking all the time. I haven't seen Damon Hill go through my picture. And now you see that is certainly a Minardi, and it's one of the footwork cars that's out. I would suspect it's Suzuki, but we'll soon know because here they come to complete the first lap. Prost well ahead of Alesi with Schumacher third. So it's Williams, Ferrari, Benetton. Berger is up into fourth place. Johnny Herbert fifth. Brundle is in sixth position. Patrese is seventh. Andretti is eighth. Damon Hill is running and is in ninth position, but a fair way back.
Yes, that was a pretty dramatic start. Approaching the start for the first corner at 180 miles an hour, it's no great surprise. Now, firstly, there is Jean Alesi. Now, I felt he jumped that start a bit. We may yet see him have a stop-go penalty for that. So that was the first thing, although nothing has come of that so far. But then, of course, the main point was that we had the conflict between Ayrton Senna and Damon Hill there. We couldn't see it all in the frame. Hopefully, we'll see a replay of that. But at Senna, we could see on the inside, Senna rose up in the air. It looked like Damon was trying to go around the outside, or the two were pretty much abreast. Without seeing a replay, it's difficult to say much more. Now, here we are, actually. Now, here's the replay. Here we are with into the start. That must be Damon Hill we're with. And it looked like Senna there rode up. That was Senna's car riding up over the back of that. Damon Hill keeps going. Senna keeps going. Both have lost some time, but let's hope. Let's have another look there. So we can see how they are. Now, they are literally side by side. Looks like Senna ran a little bit wide there. He perhaps didn't give Damon as much room as he could have had, and that's what happened. But both were absolutely broadside. No one clearly culpable. And that's both footwork spinning off there together. That is both footworks just as we leave them spinning off there. That's Derek Warwick and Aguri Suzuki.
And Damon Hill is in 9th position ahead of Ayrton Senna. Here's a replay. Prost leading into the Rettifilo on the first lap. You can see Alesi behind him in 2nd place. You can see Senna coming through in the red and white car to try and get through on the inside. Damon Hill moves slightly to the left. He's offline.
Yes, I think seeing that again, I think Senna did go too wide on that first corner, on that first left-hand part. He didn't keep it tight enough. He should have known that Damon was there. He ran wide, maybe he lost grip, and ran basically into the side of Damon Hill and up in the air.
Now, we're riding with Damon Hill now. This is another replay, and you can see the Ferrari in front. Damon is forced to the right, over the curbing and the grass. Corrects his line. Meantime, Senna has gone off. There's the Benetton going through of Michael Schumacher up into the 3rd place that he's holding now. And we're on now lap 2. There is Prost leading, and you can see that Schumacher in the Benetton Ford is closing up on Jean Alesi, who is 2nd. Quite a gap as they come out of the Ascari bends down to the Parabolica. Gerhard Berger in 4th position, followed by Johnny Herbert. And what a scrap already between the Ferrari of Jean Alesi and the Benetton of Schumacher. And here is yet another replay. Hill leads into the Rettifilo, and Senna tries to go through. Watch him. Yeah, he rides up. And that can't have done the McLaren very much good. It can't have done the Williams very much good.
Now, of course, one of the problems that you get from that, apart from the risk of damage, there's also the fact that you get muck on the tyres, gravel on the tyres, and that can take as much of a lap to clean off before you get back to a full level of grip.
Martin Brundle is in 6th position, and here is the running order on lap 4. Well, there is the running order on lap 4. Alain Prost leading by 2.5 seconds. The battle between the Ferrari of Alesi and the Benetton of Schumacher. Here comes Berger's Ferrari. So Ferraris are 2nd and 4th. Great news for the Italian fans. And there is Damon Hill coming up through the field. He's in 7th place now. Senna is behind Patrese, who is 8th. So Damon Hill has managed to get a car between himself and the Brazilian.
Yes, certainly from those performances there, both Senna is running well by the look of it, and there is Schumacher having a real go there.
But can he get round on the outside? My goodness, yes he can, because Alesi was forced to give way. That was a very, very brave move by Schumacher, and he was fighting one of the bravest men in Formula One, Jean Alesi.
Yeah, absolutely, that was one of the most outstanding manoeuvres. Shame we didn't see it from a different camera angle, but to go around the outside of Jean Alesi on his home ground into Ascari is quite exceptional. The kind of thing that we've come to expect of Schumacher now.
Right, now hear this. Look how Michael Schumacher is pulling away from Jean Alesi now. He's got past him. The gap between Prost and the 2nd place man was 2.5 seconds. Schumacher is 2nd now. There he is. It's 3.2 seconds. But Schumacher's got a clear track ahead of him, and only Alain Prost in terms of car and driver ahead of him on the track. Berger is 4th. Herbert is 5th. Brundle is in 6th position. Damon Hill is in 7th place, so 4 British drivers in the top 7. Senna 8th, Patrese 9th, Wendlinger is 10th, Blundell is 11th, and Andrea de Cesaris is 12th in the much improved Tyrrell.
Yes, Damon Hill into 7th place now, and he is lapping faster than anybody apart from Prost. He's merely 100th or so slower than Prost, which looks in very good shape. I think we could see a tremendous race here. We've got both Hill and Senna, who thankfully both look to have fully healthy cars with some good overtaking to go on.
Patrick Head, the Williams technical director, said to me just before the race began, I think this is going to be a very, very good race, Murray, and it sounds as though he's absolutely right. There is Alesi third. Look now for the second Ferrari, Gerhard Berger, in fourth position. You'll see him come out of the Ascari bends. Now, behind him in fifth place, Johnny Herbert, up from seventh on the grid to fifth in the race. And next year, of course, Lotus are going to have Honda power, and behind Johnny Herbert is Damon Hill. Damon Hill then has got past Martin Brundle. The Williams Renault is really flying. Hill from second on the grid down to 10th as a result of that coming together with Senna, is now up 3 places, and it won't be very much longer before he is challenging Gerhard Berger, because Damon Hill is 5th. He's past Herbert. Brundle is in 7th place, Senna is 8th, Patrese is 9th, and here they come, exiting the Dialoni into the grand curve, now up to the Rozier. That's the second chicane. Here it is, Alesi, Berger in 4th position, Damon Hill closing up in 5th place.
Yes, one of the problems that Ferrari have, unfortunately, is that because of their V12 engine, it uses a lot of fuel. So the cars have to start with a lot of fuel on board, perhaps 40 litres more, 30 litres more than the Williams and the Benettons, and that means that they're about 30 kilos heavier. And that all costs the car time. They're probably nearly a second a lap slower, purely because of their extra thirsty engines.
And while you watch Berger and Hill fighting for 4th position, I'll tell you that Schumacher is starting to catch Prost. The gap is down to 2.8 seconds between first and second. Alesi third, there he is. Now, is Damon Hill going to get past the Ferrari of Gerhard Berger? He's tucked up underneath his rear wing. He's challenging as they come into the Parabolica. Gerhard Berger moves across. Hill had sold him a dummy and moves to the right and takes that place from Gerhard Berger. And Damon Hill is now up into 4th position. Next target is Jean Alesi's Ferrari.
Yes, that was a very good straightforward overtaking manoeuvre from Hill. Performed very well. He got the toe, he was in the slipstream, he picked up that necessary 5 miles an hour, perhaps extra top speed, moved initially to the left so that Gerhard would block the left, then came to the inside, which is the conventional way of doing it, into the Parabolica, clean line and away. Great driving.
Lap 7, Prost leads, Schumacher second, Alesi third, Hill 4th, Berger 5th, Herbert is 6th, Brundle is 7th, Senna is 8th, Patrese is 9th, Wendling is 10th, then Blundell and Katayama. So, there is Johnny Herbert. Behind him, Martin Brundle. That is Ayrton Senna in 8th position. And the interesting thing is that Ayrton Senna is not making up ground. He was down to 11th position behind Damon Hill after they'd come together. I don't know, of course, whether that off that Ayrton Senna had, during which his car reared right up into the air and crashed down, will have affected the suspension at all.
I think it possibly has to a small degree. What we can say is that the engineers, the technicians at McLaren in the back of the garage will be able to see exactly what's going on with their telemetry system. But looking at the way that Senna is going, I really think his car is pretty healthy, if not totally. Now, what he's got to do now, though, is get by Brundle. And Brundle, with the Ligier, has got the Renault engine, like Hill, like the Williams cars, and that means he's probably got 50 horsepower down, so, or rather 50 horsepower more for Brundle. So Senna's got to work hard to get in that slipstream. He's probably not close enough now. He's coming up to the start-finish straight, and Brundle is far enough ahead to keep that place. But watch Senna close under braking, as I'm sure he will.
And at this stage of the race, this early stage of the race, we're on lap 8 out of 53. Alain Prost, that you saw there, is only half a second slower than the lap record of Ayrton Senna, 1:26.061. Prost has gone round in 1:26.499. And there is the battle behind Alesi, Herbert, Brundle and Senna, who are 6th, 7th and 8th. And the gap between Prost and Schumacher is about the same, just under 3 seconds. So Alain Prost has got a bit of a cushion between himself and the young German, and he's trying to keep it that way. But Johnny Herbert, as ever, driving a superb race. This much underjudged driver, and he's really getting it right here in London.
But Damon Hill is really charging now. He has just set the fastest lap of the race. He's done a 26.3. He is now just 2 seconds behind Alesi, and I think before long we're going to see Hill joining Prost and Schumacher in the battle for the lead.
And won't that be something to watch? 3 seconds between Prost and the second place man as Ayrton Senna challenges Martin Brundle's Ligier.
Yes, now here is where Senna really needs to be a lot closer to Brundle to have a chance of going by. He's not close enough, I'm quite sure. Now that's Andretti. Now I believe Andretti has been in for a new set of tyres on the first lap or second lap. Presumably he had an off somewhere. I don't think we saw it. Something which of course is a shame. He's had problems before, but this weekend in particular, he was 7th in this morning's warm-up. He seemed to be going a lot better than we've seen of late.
Michael Andretti is, yes, down to 19th position, having started very well up on the grid and having been 7th fastest in the warm-up this morning. But he's on fresh rubber now, and that'll give him a charge, quite literally. There's Prost coming towards us, second place man, Michael Schumacher. Now, where is Jean Alesi? Where is Damon Hill? And there they are, or there they should be, and out goes Ayrton Senna. Senna has retired, and that, I think, well, I'll say this in a minute, because here is a replay from Ayrton Senna's car as he challenges Martin Brundle's Ligier, and they're coming up to the second chicane, the Roja. He closes right up on Martin Brundle and literally drives straight into the back of the Englishman. Well, it's easy for me to condemn, but Jonathan, you've done this thing or been in that sort of situation. What's your view?
Well, I think there's little other view there than Senna purely braked too late, Murray. We knew that he had to brake late. He had to keep right up with Brundle to have a chance of getting by. He wasn't going to get by there, though. That is not really an overtaking point.
And Damon Hill is challenging Alesi for third position as they come up to the first chicane, the Rettifilo, and goes straight through. Now, I said that Schumacher was a very, very brave man against a very brave man when he passed Jean Alesi. That was an equally brave move and a brilliant move by Damon Hill, who is now in third position. He's some way behind Michael Schumacher, and that's Johnny Herbert, and this is a replay of Ayrton Senna just driving straight into the back of, no doubt, a livid Martin Brundle, because that's taken the Englishman out as well. So Senna is out and Martin Brundle is out, and now we're with Jean Alesi. And here is Ayrton Senna. Here's another replay.
Yes, you can see there, we saw the brake, we tyre smoke from before, straight up the back, punts Brundle right off. Brundle, we know, goes off into the gravel like Senna. Look at all the dust around. That's certainly going to go some of that back on the track too. But mistake from Senna, very sadly taking off Martin Brundle, who was looking very good indeed.
Meantime, on lap 10 out of 53, Alain Prost has increased his lead over Schumacher to 3.8 seconds. And Damon Hill is now ahead of the French Sicilian Alesi, who is in fourth position. We're on lap 11. Prost is steadily increasing his lead. It's 4.2 seconds. Damon Hill goes through third. He's 9 seconds behind Schumacher, and he's lapping slower than the German. In fifth position is Gerhard Berger, so the Ferraris are fourth and fifth. Johnny Herbert is still in the points at sixth position. Riccardo Patrese has taken advantage of the retirement of Brundle and Senna to move up into 7th place in the second Benetton, and you're watching Alain Prost, race leader. Carl Wendlinger is 8th. Marc Blundell is in 9th position, so the sole Ligier, Marc Blundell, is 9th, and that is Ayrton Senna in the middle of your picture.
Yeah, Senna there looking, I'm sure, certainly disappointed, but it was, I would think, his second mistake of the race. I think the first contretemps with Damon Hill had more to do with Senna running wide than Hill squeezing him tight, and certainly there's no way that the incident with Brundle was anything other than Senna's fault. Certainly not the kind of driving that one expects from a triple world champion. We know he was under pressure. He's been struggling to keep up with Schumacher in the Benetton, but certainly he hasn't got very far today.
And I haven't had a chance to say it so far, but of course that must effectively end Ayrton Senna's World Championship chances. He had a mathematical chance of beating the race leader Alain Prost here in the championship, despite the fact that Prost has already won 7 races to Ayrton Senna's 3. But Prost is driving steadily onwards. He has to be the favourite in this race, and if he wins it, he will be world champion. But it is still mathematically possible at this stage for Damon Hill to win the championship, and he's certainly doing his best to catch Michael Schumacher because he's driving faster than the German. Whilst you see the gap of 5.2 seconds between Prost and Schumacher there, the gap between Schumacher and Hill is just over 9 seconds, but Damon Hill is cutting into it, and Alain Prost has broken the lap record on lap 10 from 1 minute 26.061 by Ayrton Senna. Prost has gone round in 1:25.724, and at this stage of the race, that is incredible.
Yes, he's obviously pushing hard. I suppose he knows that he's obviously got a lead. He would like to consolidate it. He must be very confident in his car. He's just a little bit on the edge there, just coming into Parabolica. He's obviously pushing hard. Schumacher 5 seconds behind, but Schumacher is gently slipping. Most exciting, though, is, of course, that Damon Hill in third place is going to be on, trying to be on, certainly. He'll be using his best efforts now to catch up with Schumacher and try and get by. It's going to be difficult for Damon. He wasn't happy after the warm-up. I spoke to him, and he felt the car was oversteering too much, which means the back was sliding around, coming into the slower corners. He didn't have the confidence that he's had in Hungary and the last Grand Prix in Belgium. So let's hope that he's solved his problems and that he's got a good chance of getting up with Schumacher and, of course, Prost.
That is Michael Andretti fighting his way back through the field. He rejoined in 19th position, and he's up to 17th now, chasing Christian Fittipaldi's Minardi and Luca Badoer's Lola, which is going well, as Alain Prost is on his 13th lap now, and he's coming up behind Michael Andretti, soon to lap the American.
I'm sure it's going to be quite a relief for Prost to have made a clean start here as well. We know that he did it at the last Grand Prix in Spa. You'll remember that in Belgium he stalled on the green flag lap, but in fact Prost stalled twice here too. In qualifying he stalled at the end of the pit lane, so he does still seem to continue to have this tendency to be perhaps a bit too delicate with the car. Now in qualifying it's no big deal, the mechanics merely restart the car, albeit slightly inconvenient, but certainly in the race it's critical. Now we can see this is Prost coming up to lap Andretti, and it looks Andretti just pulling over to let him go by there. You can see the speed differential there, the Williams just driving by the McLaren, didn't need to work too hard to do it as they come into the first chicane.
Right, now down in the pit lane we've got Derek Warwick, who had that problem, to put it mildly, on the opening lap. Both the footwork cars went off. Derek, are you with me?
So I can hear you, Murray.
Right, tell us please what happened.
Well, I mean, it's a normal accident here at Monza. You know, I made a good start, got by Andretti, and was halfway past Aguri. And going into the first corner, it was they all come by me at like 100 miles an hour, and there was no way they were going to stop. And of course, everything piled into one another. I went by on the outside, and then Aguri had a suspension problem and drove straight into the back of me.
Derek, rotten luck, because you've got the footwork Mugen car going extremely well with the new active suspension, and we were all optimistic for you.
Well, you know, I mean, the car was going well here, and we're looking good for a good points position, and you know, to go out in the first corner is just inexcusable. It's pathetic, and there's a few people that need a lesson learnt here.
I know, Derek. Thank you. Better luck in Portugal.
Thank you.
Alain Prost on lap 14 out of 53 leads Schumacher by 6.3 seconds. That is the Frenchman, the professor, sensibly called. He exits the Parabolica, believe it or not, at 180 miles an hour. I did say 180. He's doing about 207 here as he tears a rip off from his visor to improve his visibility. Now he stands on the brakes, down to second gear and 65 miles an hour, and it looks to me as though he's coming up behind Christian Fittipaldi. Indeed he is, in the Minardi, who is in 16th place as Prost exits the Grand Curve at 200 miles an hour. Now down to the Roja, second gear, 60 miles an hour, and he should be just under the wing of Fittipaldi's car as he exits it. There's Fittipaldi ahead, who is the nephew of the great Emerson Fittipaldi, the son of Wilson Fittipaldi, and that is Michael Schumacher, 6.7 seconds behind Alain Prost in second place, and 9.7 seconds ahead of Damon Hill, who is third, and Schumacher is matching Damon Hill's lap times, 10th of a second for 10th of a second. Hill is not gaining on the Benetton. So Williams leads, Benetton second, Williams third. The Ferraris of Alesi and Berger are fourth and fifth, ahead of Johnny Herbert's Lotus, the last one in the points at the moment. And here comes Michael Andretti, 17th position, who is about soon to be lapped by Michael Schumacher. Into the Parabolica, they go into it at about 95 miles an hour, go very wide, almost over the curb on the exit, Now they're doing 180 and accelerating.
I think things are going to be really starting to hot up in about another 10 laps. The big battle's going to be between Schumacher and Hill. Now, so far, Damon, of course, winning at Belgium, at Spa in Belgium. He won against good competition, but he didn't actually have to race wheel to wheel with a driver of Schumacher's caliber. He didn't have to try and wrest the place from him. Now here he's got a chance, if he can get up with Schumacher, to prove to everybody that he really is capable of racing with one of the hardest men in the business.
Yes, Damon's just done his fastest lap, actually, 125.9, but it's only a tenth of a second faster than Schumacher and the Ferrari. And that is Johnny Herbert, and that's a big one. Johnny Herbert walks away, no problem, but the Lotus has gone off in a very, very big way. I'll identify where it is in a moment. And Johnny, who, of course, broke his legs very, very badly in the Formula 3000 crash at Brands Hatch some years ago. He's got no problems now, but that was a nasty, nasty off. And the whole of the left rear of the Lotus has been destroyed. And that means to say now that Karl Wendlinger, the Austrian in the Sauber chassis and Sauber engine, is now in the points in 6th position. Mark Blundell is 7th. Gerhard Berger must have been in for tyres, because as we watch John Alesi, I can tell you that Berger is down to 8th position. So Gerhard Berger has stopped for tyres, and on lap 17, my apologies, Schumacher is 7.6 seconds behind Prost, who's consistently going faster than the Benetton Ford, in fact a second faster. And Damon Hill, as Jonathan forecast, and there you see a replay of Johnny Herbert going off in a very big way indeed. Now, I missed the entry to that. It looked like the Parabolica to me.
Yes, Murray, I agree entirely. That was the Parabolica, and it looked like Johnny went off in about the middle of the corner, which indicates that simply in his quest for speed, he just turned in too fast. Probably driver error, although we don't know. It could be a problem with the car, but either way, he went off hard. The gravel trap, as indeed it happened with Berger in that qualifying accident, didn't slow the car down a great deal. He hit that barrier pretty hard, but the good thing about it is that with that tyre wall in front of the Armco, those tyres on their sides really do cushion the impact incredibly well. And although there's a lot of damage on the car, it's taken the side off it, certainly the wheel off it. I suspect Johnny himself, apart from being a bit shaken, I'm sure absolutely furious, is otherwise okay.
And here is Gerhard Berger into the pits for the second time. Now, this is a bit ominous. And there's no activity around the wheels. They've just changed the tyres and wheels. There's no need for them to change them again. And I'm sorry to say this looks like a retirement, although the jack is going under, in which case it's a car problem. I thought it might be a Gerhard Berger problem, having gone off so heavily yesterday and driving with a damaged elbow in any case as he was. But that is Jean Alesi exiting the Parabolica, which is where Johnny Herbert went off at nearly 180 miles an hour. And Gerhard Berger's Ferrari there, number 28, is in the pits, in the garage on lap 18 out of 53. And that is a major retirement.
Well, I suspect the problem was engine, or perhaps gearbox more likely. We didn't see any smoke emanating from the back of the car. Difficult weekend for Gerhard. Shame it stopped, obviously, for him. But let's really hope that Alesi keeps going. Last year, Alesi was third on the grid, retired relatively early in the race. He's absolutely flying this weekend. Certainly in the race form, as we said, Ferrari's heavier on fuel. That does compromise his performance. Something else, we shall see a lot of Alesi, I'm sure, I think he's an outstanding driver, actually. He was my teammate at Tyrrell back in 1989. And quite frankly, from coming into Formula One as a new driver, by mid-season, he was lapping half a second faster than I was. No bones about it. He was just quicker. And the best thing of all is that he was such a nice guy with it. I had no grudge whatsoever against him. He was not devious. He was not manipulative. He's just a very good, straightforward driver, great personality. And I'd really like to see him go well in a car that can maintain a pace throughout a race. Just another thing, looking at the Ferrari in that head-on shot there, do you see that intermediate wing? There's the wing right on the top, and there's one in the middle before the bottom wing. That's about the only car that's doing that, and they do it to get a little bit more downforce to make more grip around the corners.
The ominous thing is that Gerhard Berger retired with a handling problem. I say ominous because I hope it doesn't happen to Jean Alesi. The Italian producer is understandably favouring Alesi, but the sad fact is that in fourth place he's now a long, long way behind Damon Hill, 15 seconds. and he was in front of him. And you're looking now at Karl Wendlinger in the black Sauber, who is being chased, Wendlinger, by Katayama, who is in seventh position now, with Pierluigi Martini in the Minardi, and behind him is Alain Prost, who's coming up to lap them. So Martini chasing Katayama, and I can't remember the Japanese driver in the Tyrrell, which is going much, much better here at Monza. And it looks to me as though there's something trapped under the front of the car. Have a look, Jonathan, and see what you think.
Yes, I can't see anything at the moment as Katayama tucks in behind Prost now as he comes onto the main start-finish straight. Watch the gap grow between that Williams and the Katayama's Tyrrell cannot even stay in the toe. Well, he's just about doing it. Just shows you actually what a sucking effect being right in that toe has. But I think you'll see the gap extend pretty quickly now. Prost has got this race very much in control. He's 5 seconds ahead of Schumacher. The gap pretty steady there, but in fact on that lap, you know, he lost 4 seconds. He did a 29.4 that lap. He's been running in the 25s, 26s. So 3 to 4 seconds he lost from traffic, and that kind of difference is absolutely crucial. And if drivers get it wrong or they get unlucky, leads can be eroded very, very quickly. And that kind of feeling is very worrying for a driver. When Prost knows he's got Schumacher 5 seconds behind, he feels the pressure, he feels Schumacher breathing down his neck, and he desperately hopes he can find a way by the traffic when it doesn't cost him time, which means getting by on the straights and not being held up through the corners. As is going to happen now, he's actually following the Sauber through, and he's going to be held up a bit.
And Wendlinger is in 7th place, as you see Katayama losing a place there to Pierluigi Martini. And Wendlinger moves across and lets Alain Prost through to lap him. I haven't told you yet that Marc Blundell in the Ligier is up into 6th place because of the tyre changes that we have had. And the race order on lap 20 out of 53 is Prost 5.6 seconds ahead of Schumacher, who therefore is catching him because of the traffic problems that Prost has had. And Prost was complaining vociferously about traffic in the Belgian practicing. And Damon Hill is 3rd, Alesi is still 4th in the Ferrari, Riccardo Patrese is in 5th position in the Benetton, 6th is Blundell, 7th is Wendlinger, 8th is Katayama, and in 9th position Martini, and in an incredible 10th position it's Michele Alboreto in the Lola, going very well.
Yes, actually, this race at Monza often has a habit of throwing up some unusual runners in the top 6. The attrition rate can often be high. It's demanding on engines, demanding on brakes, and a lot of problems with accidents too.
Now, down in the pit lane somewhere is the unfortunate Martin Brundle, who I hope can hear me. Let me just say, Martin, that it looked a pretty outrageous move from our point of view, because Ayrton Senna appeared literally to drive into the back of you. Is that what happened?
That's exactly what happened, Murray. He wasn't actually trying to overtake me. I think he was thinking about it a few hundred metres earlier, but I think he just completely missed his brakes. That's how he explained it to me. A simple incident like that, really. But it was quite amazing how quickly my car re-accelerated off the road.
You sound astonishingly calm and reflective about it, Martin. I would have expected you to be about 6 feet off the ground.
That's not going to put my Ligier Renault back on the racetrack, Murray, so there's not a lot of point in doing that.
Well, as you speak, Martin, Marc Blundell has lost his Ligier in the biggest possible way coming out of the Parabolica. He's fighting to recover it as he goes down the straight, but he will most certainly be out of the race.
Absolutely, yes. Marc Blundell, he's got a left rear puncture there. Now, what's interesting is that he'd just been into the pits for a new set of tyres the previous lap. So it seems that tyre has gone down straight away. I don't think it's the wheel coming off. I think it is. Yes, you can see him running wide. Look, oh, no, not at all. I beg your pardon. No, he's lost it. So that means he was on cold tyres. The tyres had gone on that lap. That was his out lap from the pits. He ran wide, and that's a Benetton stop.
Now, is it Patrese or is it Schumacher? I cannot see. I need to get a closer look at the car. It's Schumacher. Michael Schumacher is out of the Italian Grand Prix, and that means Damon Hill moves up into 2nd place, and unless Alain Prost has problems, it means to say that he's got the World Championship virtually in his pocket. Now, here is a replay of Michael Schumacher chasing Wendlinger, and it looks like a straight engine blow-up.
Yeah, I agree entirely, Murray. That's an engine blow-up. Again, looks like Parabolica. Bit of disappointment there for Schumacher, but it does mean that we're going to get some interesting names up into the top 6. There's no doubt about that. But that incident back to Blundell, because that was his first out lap. He looked like to me that he ran wide at Parabolica when his tyres were not yet up to full working temperature, and he ran wide. He almost got away with it, but he whacked that barrier probably 170 miles an hour. And to actually get away with just effectively what looked like later to us a flat tyre was quite remarkable. So I'm sorry, but I think a mistake by Blundell there.
And that's Michael Schumacher's 5th retirement. While that has happened, Alesi there has been into the pits and taken on new tyres, and it looked to me as though Michael Schumacher was dropping oil, understandably, as he came out of the Parabolica. I saw a grey line going behind the car, in which case it will be on the racing line, and I sincerely hope I'm wrong. But we're on lap 23 now, therefore there are 30 to go. Prost is now a majestic 18 seconds in front of Damon Hill as we wait for the 3rd place man to come through, and it is now, of course, Jean Alesi that you are looking at, and he is in front of Riccardo Patrese, who is in 4th place. In 5th position it is Carl Wendlinger, and now that Mark Blundell has gone out, it means that Pierluigi Martini and Katayama and Alboreto, who is actually in 8th place, have all moved up. And we have the astounding prospect of the Lola, which has gone so badly this season, doing well here, and if it does, it will be very welcome to everybody in motor racing.
Well, so far we know that we've had pit stops for tyres from Blundell and from Alesi. Now it's lap 23. Prost and Hill have not come in yet. There's a question mark as to whether or not they'll need to, or will they keep running on the original set. Certainly on performance, we've just seen that Alain Prost has set the fastest lap of the race, obviously a new lap record there. So there's no indication that he needs to stop on wear alone, but certainly the margin they have, that's Prost 18 seconds ahead of Hill, is certainly enough for Prost to make a stop and probably get out in front.
And look at this. This is the battle for 3rd place, with Jean Alesi's Ferrari being caught by Riccardo Patrese, the veteran Italian, in his Benetton. This is the 2nd Benetton Ford. There's the driver of the first one, Michael Schumacher, as ever, looking distressingly fit. He's probably the fittest bloke in Grand Prix racing, and he's marching back to the pits as Alesi comes up to the Rettifilo, and where behind him is Riccardo Patrese. There's only 3.9 seconds between the Ferrari and the Benetton. Well, Patrese seems to have dropped back a bit. He came out very late there. We're on lap 24 now. Prost is leading Hill by 18 seconds. They are lapping to within 100th of a second at the same speed. Alesi is in 3rd position. That is Riccardo Patrese, who is 4th. Carl Wendlinger in the Sauber is 5th. In the points, in the Minardi, is Pierluigi Martini. 7th is Katayama in the Tyrrell, who has yet to score a point in his Grand Prix career. Today could be the first time that that happens for a little Japanese driver. And in 8th position is Michele Alboreto. 9th is Eric Comas, as we do a passing manoeuvre with Damon Hill, with Alain Prost in the Williams. And he's coming up now to the 2nd chicane. The man he's just passed was Eric Comas, 9th on in the race order, and we're on lap 25.
Actually, Katayama there in 7th place at the moment for Tyrrell could repeat as points finished for the Tyrrell team last year. De Cesaris took 6th place. We get a chance to see Katayama. Just watch his head in the cockpit. You get a head-on shot. His head is as if his neck is rubber. It wiggles left and right. It really flops all over the place on the straight, possibly due to turbulence in the cockpit from a poor windshield design, a poor wind deflector design. But either way, quite how he can drive the car properly, I really don't know. He might have done something about it, but that's certainly what it was like yesterday in qualifying.
And Alain Prost has lapped everybody up to Riccardo Patrese, who is in 4th place. The Frenchman looking utterly confident, as well he might. After all, he's already got 3 World Championships behind him, and this is his 196th Grand Prix, of which he has won 51. The chap who's won more Grand Prix races and scored more World Championship points than anybody else in the history of the championship, which started in 1950. So now up to the Rettifilio. This is the first chicane. We're with Damon Hill, who is in second place, and I'll try and identify who it is that Damon Hill is coming up to lap. It could well be Michael Andretti in the McLaren, but it isn't. Out of the road yet. No, of course it's Eric Comas, who has just been lapped by Alain Prost. Comas in 8th position in the Larousse Lamborghini, and one of the major rumours here, and that is Riccardo Patrese from 4th place into the pits. Now, the Benetton team had an absolutely fantastic 4.5 seconds pit stop in Belgium. Patrese was a bit slower. He came into the pits in 4th position. He's lost. No, he won't have lost places because Carl Wendlinger is 46 seconds behind him. And that is Alain Prost in the pits. Alain Prost now. Is he going to get away? Well, is always the question one has to ask, because he has failed to do so once or twice this season, but not this time. Prost, of course, had got all the time in the world, but the gap between himself and Damon Hill is right down. In fact, Damon Hill is closing right up on Prost as he goes into the Rettifilio. It's less than 2.5 seconds, and there is Hill. Now, this is a bit misleading because, of course, Alain Prost is on new rubber and Damon Hill isn't, but we don't know what Hill's plans are. He might decide to stay out and take a chance on the loss of performance.
Yes, he may well. It may well be that they'll try and run a one-stop routine for Prost, but let Damon go all the way through. And I think the answer will be determined over the next couple of laps. If Damon can live with Prost, or even not drop away too quickly, they may keep him out. And the other bit of information that they're really going to need to know is what the tyre wear looks like from Prost's car, from the tyres that have come off Prost's car. And the Goodyear engineers will be looking at those tyres now. The tyres start at 4 millimetres useful tread depth. Once they get down to 2 millimetres, they really are past good grip performance, and so they look to change them then. So I think over the next few laps we shall see Damon probably come in. I somehow doubt that he can keep up. He hasn't managed to do so on the same set of tyres originally, so I think he'll probably come in.
And of course it's absolutely critical for Damon Hill that he gets past Alain Prost quickly, because Damon Hill's tyres are up to race temperature. So effectively will Alain Prost be, but there's always that little doubt. But Damon Hill has not done it, and Prost is now in a strong position, and Damon Hill himself comes into the pits. So the gap will go up from 2.5 seconds, which it was when he peeled off, to, I would suspect, about 18 seconds, which it was before he went into the pits. So on lap 28 now, Alain Prost is still leading. Hill is still second as he emerges and should be through and out of the pits before Jean Alesi in 3rd place goes through. And Riccardo Patrese is still 4th, Wendlinger is 5th, Martini is 6th, Katayama is 7th, Comas is 8th, Pedro Lamy, the young Portuguese driver in the 2nd Lotus in his first Grand Prix, is in 9th place ahead of Luca Badoer 10th, Fittipaldi 11th, Michael Andretti is in 12th position, and there are still 17 runners out of the 26 who started. Alain Prost fastest lap so far, a new lap record, 1 minute 25 seconds, 0.175, and that has shattered the previous lap record. So that is Jean Alesi. He is in 3rd position. He's scorching his way through the field.
Yes, he's 15 seconds behind Hill now. It could well be that in the second part of the race, with the fuel load down, that Alesi's Ferrari won't be handicapped by that heavy fuel load, and he could well go a lot better. So we could yet see Alesi close up on Hill, particularly if Damon is not particularly happy with his performance, with the handling performance of the car.
Now, you can see Luca Badoer there, followed by Fittipaldi. Fittipaldi's the chap in the white car. He's got the yellow helmet. He's about to be lapped by Alesi, who is in 3rd position. But Luca Badoer, as I said, is in 10th place, and Fittipaldi shaping up to pass him. Behind both of them is Jean Alesi, who wants to lap them and get through. Alesi in 3rd position in the Ferrari, and he's some way behind Damon Hill now, as Badoer comes out of the Parabolica to complete another lap. Tucked up behind him is Fittipaldi, and Alesi goes through and takes both of them.
Yes, he's going by pretty cleanly, I think, which will be a big relief to Alesi. One of the concerns as a driver of coming up behind a couple of guys like Badoa and Fittipaldi there is that you really, a little mistake there actually from Badoa, almost let Fittipaldi have a go. He sensibly didn't try and persevere, but one is always concerned as to whether or not they are so embroiled in their own battle that they are not looking behind them and they're not aware of where you are if you're a faster driver coming up behind. And if they don't know you're there and you think they have come up the inside, for example, you can find yourself having a collision very easily indeed, and of course that means out of the race.
And hats off to Luca Badoa, because he's only finished in 4 Grand Prix this year, and this is the 13th of the 16 in the World Championship. As Alesi comes towards us, behind him is Pedro Lamy in the Lotus. He's been lapped, but he is in 9th place, and a very praiseworthy 9th place.
I think a bit of interest is going to come yet from Michael Andretti. He's in 8th place at the moment, but he's lapping quickly. He's lapping actually considerably faster than the people are directly ahead of him, which is Wendlinger, and we've got Comas there as well. I think he could well be chasing those two to get himself up to a points finish. 5th place, there's Wendlinger, Martini and Comas ahead of Andretti. Andretti's lapping about 2 seconds faster than each of those three, so I think that's a battle to watch in the next 5 or 10 laps.
And sure enough, the gap, as I forecast, between Prost and Hill has returned to 19 seconds. It was 18 before Hill went into the pits after Alain Prost had done so for a second set of tyres. They will undoubtedly run through to the end of the lap on the lap in the race that they're on now. And Johnny Herbert is in the pit lane. We want to talk to him, but since his traditional interviewer is Jonathan Palmer, Jonathan, you do.
Johnny, we only saw the very late stages of what was clearly a pretty major off for you. We saw the car broadside into the barrier. That's all we saw. Tell us what happened, first of all.
Well, I was approaching Parabolica, and I was just passing Gerhard. I think I had a hydraulic leak, and I turned in. I missed the apex just a little bit by a couple of or 1 foot more or less. It was hardly anything, and I thought no problem. Had a bit of understeer there, expecting the car to come round. I think I must have just had a bit of the dirt on the edge of the circuit, and it just dragged me straight off. It didn't even sort of slide or anything. It just brought me straight off the circuit. Bit of a shame.
Very much so, I'm sure. Just how big was the impact? We saw the damage. We didn't see what happened. Was it big?
It was fairly big. I've had one slightly bigger than that, so to me that's not that big.
Johnny, thanks very much indeed. Very hard luck, and better next time.
Thanks.
Michael Schumacher continuing to make his way home, and the slightly bigger one that Johnny was in passing referring to was that dreadful accident that he had at Brands Hatch in the Formula 3000 race, which so very nearly ended his motor racing career. And thank heavens it didn't, because I would expect Johnny Herbert in the combination of Lotus and Mugen Honda next year to be a potential race winner. Well, here is the potential race winner, Alain Prost. He's on his 31st lap. He's 18.5 seconds ahead of Damon Hill.
Well, of course, things are pretty comfortable for Prost there with that kind of lead. He's certainly got no one to race at the moment, but he's going to be very well aware that this race can determine his World Championship victory here. Of course, if he continues, he'll get it, but he also knows only too well that he's got to finish. And he'll also be aware of the fact, I'm sure, that there's been a lot of attrition behind. A lot of cars have fallen out, and that'll be a little bit disconcerting, I'm sure, because he certainly will not be taking it for granted that his Williams car will take him to the finish. And he'll probably remember last year when, if he was following it, was Nigel Mansell and Riccardo Patrese both had problems with their Williams, which ultimately allowed Ayrton Senna to go through and take a win for McLaren. So he's going to be keeping it very neat, very precise, not pushing it too hard now. In fact, we've just seen Damon Hill, as I say that, set a new lap record, 25.1. He's 17 seconds behind. So I would think Prost is going to be watching that gap, and if he can maintain it, he's got another 22 laps or so to go, then he'll be okay.
Well, we're on lap 32 now, and I cast my mind back to the beginning of the race when, at the very first combination of corners, the Rettifilo chicane, just after the start, Ayrton Senna had a coming together with Damon Hill, which took them down to 10th and 11th places. They fought their way through. Hill is now in 2nd place. Jean Alesi, who ran so well in 2nd position behind Alain Prost, has long since been caught by Damon Hill. The Ferrari is sadly not living up to its expectations. Gerhard Berger, his teammate, of course, has been into the pits for a tyre change and then subsequently has retired with a handling problem. And now we're on lap 32 with the man you're watching, Alain Prost, leading by a country mile. But I remember an occasion in 1988 when McLaren, who won 15 of the 16 races in that year, had Ayrton Senna in a winning situation at Monza, when Jean-Louis Schlesser, at this point actually, came across the chicane and literally harpooned Senna out of the race. I remember a later year when Ayrton Senna, leading in the McLaren Honda, exited the Parabolica. His engine blew up in the biggest possible way. He spun on his own oil, to the euphoric delight of the crowd, because that meant that Ferrari went through to finish, and to finish in second place that year. So, because Prost is leading by 16 seconds, with a diminishing lead incidentally, it's by no means certain that he's going to win this race.
Now, as we saw, Prost then in the background actually earlier on was the Larousse Lamborghini of Philippe Alliot. Now, there's a bit of interest. We're going to see a McLaren car soon running with a different type of engine, and that's because McLaren have accepted a project from Lamborghini. Lamborghini are very eager to see just how good that V12 engine is. They're not confident that the Larousse chassis is good enough to show it in its best light, and so McLaren are building and are soon going to run a McLaren MP48 with a Lamborghini V12 just for a test program.
And you're watching Pedro Lamy 9th, Luca Badoa 10th, Christian Fittipaldi 11th in respectively the Lotus, Lola and Minardi cars. This is the main battle on the track at the present moment. It's an unusual and a very interesting one. Interesting because it's Pedro Lamy's first Grand Prix. He's made a big name for himself in Formula 3000 this year, notwithstanding the fact that some of his tactics have been a bit aggressive, but he's driven very well in practice here. Luca Badoa, although he finished 7th in a Grand Prix at San Marino this year, that was by default, but he's driving a fine race here, and the Lola has in fact been getting better and better. At Huntingdon they've been doing an enormous amount of development on the car, and the fact that Badoa, number 22 in the red, white and yellow Lola, is able to keep ahead of Christian Fittipaldi, who is no mean driver, this is his 22nd Grand Prix, is an indication of good cheer for Lola, and I hope it brightens their day.
No, absolutely. And although those two cars, they're following behind, unfortunately we've missed that bit of footage there, but spare a thought for these drivers, even when they're right behind another car, even someone like Fittipaldi following Badoa, and here we've got Andretti actually just behind Alesi. The noise, the vibration, the turbulence from being right behind at 200 miles an hour is out of this world. You cannot believe it. And for Fittipaldi to be behind the Lola with its Ferrari V12 engine wailing in his face, his head will be being buffeted. He won't be able to hear himself think, and yet all the time on our screens, it really looks quite nice and serene. It's not like that inside, I can assure you.
Now, sadly, we've already talked to one retired Ligier driver, Martin Brundle. We heard what happened to him, but meantime, here coming towards us is the Minardi of Pierluigi Martini. It's good to know that both those cars are running well. Martini is in 6th place, his teammate Fittipaldi is in 11th place. And I just said we've talked to Martin Brundle. Sadly, we have to talk to Mark Blundell, who went out in even more exciting circumstances. It looked to us, Mark, I hope I'm not being unfair, as though you just lost it coming out of the Parabolica. True or false?
Not really, Murray. Just had a new set of tyres put on, and had an extra grip from the tyres. Went into the Parabolica in front of Wendlinger because we'd made a good advantage in the pit stop. And for some reason, just like a slippery surface or something there, some gravel went straight off, couldn't control the car on the grass, and unfortunately clipped the rear wheel on the barrier, as you saw.
Mark, rotten luck, because you've already had 2 third places this year, and you're 8th in the World Championship in your first season for Ligier. We all hope that you're going to retain the seat for next year. Any news?
No news as yet, but I'm trying and I'm pushing hard, so hopefully I'll be around next year.
Yeah, we hope so too. Meantime, we're very sorry to see you out of the race as we ride with Christian Fittipaldi in 11th position, chasing the Lola Ferrari, the Lola chassis and the V12 previous series Ferrari engine of Luca Badoa, the ex-Formula 3000 driver. He won 4 rounds in the Formula 3000 Championship last year and got promoted. And there are stories that 4 of the teams have applied to run a 3rd car in the Japanese and Australian Grand Prix this year. Ligier is one of them, with, it is thought, Eric Bernard to drive. Benetton is another one, with, it is suggested, Luca Badoer to drive, because they have an eye on the Italian. Another one is McLaren. Now, whether that would be with a Lamborghini engine or with a Ford engine, I don't know. But Mika Häkkinen has been promised to drive in a Grand Prix by Ron Dennis. And Mika said to me, Ron is a man of his word, and I'm utterly confident I'm going to be driving in a Grand Prix this year, and how very nice it would be to see the Finnish driver. And the fourth car, incidentally, is rumoured to be a Tyrrell with a Japanese driver at the wheel. Which one, I don't know at the moment. But we're on lap 36 now, out of 53. Alain Prost coming towards us. Damon Hill is consistently carving into Alain Prost's lead. And I asked Alan yesterday whether there were any team orders, and quite vehemently, actually. He said, absolutely no way, Murray, no team orders. And now the gap between Alain Prost and Damon Hill is down to some 14 seconds, and Damon Hill is breaking the lap record virtually every lap. In fact, the Englishman on his 35th lap has gone round in 1 minute 24.399, and that compares with Ayrton Senna's lap record of 1:26.0. So Damon Hill is cutting chunks out of the lap record.
Yes, he is indeed, and it's interesting to reflect how at Spa that Damon again was quicker on his second set of tyres. That on his second set, Damon was able to get ahead of Alain, at least originally in the pits, but nevertheless he was faster on the track as well. He seems to be doing the same thing here. Now he's got another 17 laps to try and make up that 14-second deficit, and that, make no mistake, is the only thing that is important to Damon Hill now. You know, he knows that he's still having to fight for his place in the Williams team next year. Williams are certainly considering Senna next year. Williams, of course, as we're just watching, Christian Fittipaldi still trying to have a go, and a lot of fumbling going on there, and he might get by, he may not. Let's see what happens. No, he doesn't quite. You know, what happened there was Badoer went in more slowly, Fittipaldi got the run, but of course you have to go through the next part of that chicane so quickly. It's quite an interesting part here. Perhaps they'll keep with it.
So we're with Christian Fittipaldi now, one of the nicest people in Grand Prix racing, an absolutely charming young man, and he's got the potential for a glittering Grand Prix career in front of him. He's only 22 years old. There's a replay of Badoer going into the first chicane, just too far over the curbing, which gave Fittipaldi the opportunity to get up alongside him, but Badoer, of course, had got the inside line for the left-hand turn which followed, and by scrambling a bit was able to keep in front of Christian Fittipaldi. This is lap 38. The gap between Prost and Hill is down to 13 seconds. Now, it could well be that Alain Prost he will know exactly what the situation is, and it could be that he's content to let Hill close up on him because Prost is confident that he's far enough ahead to retain his lead.
Well, it could be the case, although I'd be slightly surprised. What we do know, though, we know that historically Prost is a conservative driver. He's not the sort of driver who will be determined at all costs to win the championship by taking a win on the circuit. I would think, though, if the gap gets down to much less than 7 seconds and it's still reducing, then I think that it's probably out of Prost's direct control, or certainly he is recognising the fact that Hill is quicker and has a very good chance of taking the lead from him. So we'll have to watch the next few laps. That was another lap, 0.8 of a second faster than Prost by Hill.
And coming towards us, Riccardo Patrese being lapped by Alain Prost, and Patrese is in 4th position. So Alain Prost is not letting his concentration dim. He's maintaining his momentum. And the gap between Prost and Hill is now 9.7 seconds. That is a massive chunk out of the Frenchman's lead. And Damon has again broken the lap record, 1 minute 24.39. I think we have a motor race on our hands.
I think we do indeed. Now, that really is significant. Certainly, Prost must have been held up by traffic. But nevertheless, 24.3 is dramatically faster than anything Prost has done before. And that was, by the way, Hill that did that 24.3. So Hill has really got the bit between his teeth. As we were saying, he knows that to keep his place in the Williams team, to prevent Williams from getting too interested in Senna, he really needs to prove that he can really fight hard. And he's obviously giving it all he's got, and this really is looking good.
And you saw a bit of driving tactics there from Luca Badoer, who chose to have his racing line going at 45 degrees across the track. because Fittipaldi was trying to get past him. But I'm waiting for Alain Prost to come through to complete his 39th lap, start his 40th lap. The gap between himself and Hill was 9.7 seconds, and Prost has just gone past now, and I'm waiting for Hill. And it seems a very, very long time. Well, it is a long time. It's 9.5 seconds, and Prost is replying, but not fast enough, because Hill has broken the lap record again. 1 minute 24.19.
Absolutely, this is great stuff. We might have lost the McLarens, the Benetton cars, or certainly Schumacher's, but this is cracking stuff. Prost is really having to work for it now, and we can now see that there looks no indication whatsoever of any team orders. Prost 24.4, Damon straight back 24.1. Absolutely superb stuff. But whilst they're battling it out, just once again, spare a thought for Badoa and Martini, who will no doubt see once again as they battle away. You know, on the straight, in the morning warm-up, the top speed of Martini was 192.59, of Badoa 192.40. So just 1/10 of a mile an hour separated those two cars. You can see how incredibly evenly matched they are, and that's the reason why they're having such a job getting by.
And John Alesi ducking and diving to try and get past Carl Wendlinger, although Wendlinger is in fact effectively a lap behind him, but for a few car lengths difference. Wendlinger is in 5th place and John Alesi is in 6th position. So a battle for the lead between Prost and Hill, and we are on their 39th lap now. So into the Ascari curves, and that is Riccardo Patrese in 4th position, and into the pits. Now, this is his second set of tyres. This is a traditional Benetton move now. Good stop, 5.41 seconds, and this Benetton respond favourably to fresh rubber. Well, all cars do, but this is their tactic. Time and time again in a Grand Prix, Schumacher and Patrese have come in for 2 stops when others have stopped once, or 1 stop when others have not stopped at all, and it has often paid off. But now Prost and Hill are battling, as you well know, and a shake of the fist from Jean Alesi to Carl Wendlinger, and the Austrian is refusing to give way. And Jean Alesi, who's got a very fiery Sicilian temperament when he's roused, he's the nicest possible bloke out of the cockpit, but he can get very irate, and he storms his way past Carl Wendlinger, and that's another lap then, and the Ferrari has lost a lot of time. The gap between himself and Damon Hill was 40 seconds, and I don't know what it is at the present moment, but the gap between Prost and Hill is about 9 seconds at the present moment. So Prost is responding, and there you see the Rettifilio with Wendlinger, and a replay of Jean Alesi expressing his opinion to the Austrian in no mean terms. And Patrese, of course, is Alesi is now closing up on Riccardo Patrese, and the race order on this, the 42nd lap out of 53, Prost, Hill, Alesi, Patrese, Wendlinger, Andretti. Michael Andretti is in the points. Now, this is really good cheer for the American. He's only finished in the points twice this year, and in Spain and in France, and he's in the points in Italy. And this is the place where his father, Mario Andretti, has won the Italian Grand Prix. And I remember Mario coming back after driving in Indy racing for some time to take the place of Gilles Villeneuve when Mario came back to drive in the Italian Grand Prix, and what a homecoming it was. So if Michael Andretti can finish in the points, it will be a real fillip for him. And there is Damon Hill, who is most assuredly catching Alain Prost.
Yes, you can see the mark there actually on the left-hand side pod of Damon Hill's car, where he had that coming together with Senna. Clearly it's done no damage at all. Now Damon now is going to be desperately hoping that he's not going to be held up by these two. He's going to want to get by those cleanly. Let's just hope they're watching the blue flags, they appreciate what the battle is, and that is that Damon Hill is steadily catching up on Alain Prost, and that's going to be the battle for the lead.
7.8 seconds it is at the present moment, with Damon Hill lapping obviously quicker than Alain Prost by virtue of the fact that he's catching him. There goes Hill. He's got ahead of the battle. Sorry, that was Prost. And there is Damon Hill. Now, Prost is only just ahead of the battle between the Lola of Badoa and the Minardi of Fittipaldi, and Damon Hill is closing up on them fast. So if Damon can get a clean move past these two cars who will be preoccupied with their own battle, there's a good bit of marshalling as the marshal waves the blue flag to tell them that there's someone trying to get past them. But, of course, Badoa may well think he's referring to Christian Fittipaldi when, in fact, he's referring to Damon Hill. And Damon Hill's opportunity is right now. And there is Prost. There is Prost leading, coming down to the Parabolica, and Damon Hill comes out and passes Fittipaldi, does he? As Fittipaldi takes the opportunity to try and follow through, and Damon Hill takes both of them. Now, it's a clear track between Damon Hill and Alain Prost. The gap was 7.8 seconds. It's nothing like that now, and I'm waiting for Prost to go through as I talk to you. So there is Damon Hill, 0. Prost goes across the line, and the gap is down to 4 seconds. Marvellous. Damon Hill with the prospect of catching Alain Prost, and what a fight that would be, because they are now on lap 43 out of 53, and the battle between Badoa and Fittipaldi continues, as does this battle behind Alesi between Wendlinger and Patrese and Michael Andretti. Race order. Prost leads Hill by a diminishing margin. Alesi is 3rd, Patrese is 4th, Wendlinger is 5th, Andretti is 6th, and Andretti has just passed Riccardo. No, I apologise. He's just behind him. So Riccardo Patrese is still in that 4th position. And there goes Wendlinger into the Rettifilio.
Yes, we've got Michael Andretti now, who's hard on the heels of Wendlinger. Wendlinger 5th place, Andretti 6th. That is the gap on the road. And this is a very important race for Andretti. He's had a lot of poor results, and he's going to be determined to make sure that he can try and end the season on a good note. If he can get by Wendlinger to get a 4th place, that could easily transpire to a top 3 if a few more drop out yet.
So Prost leads, Alesi is 3rd behind Hill, Wendlinger is 4th, and then is Riccardo Patrese. And another lap completed, and we are now on lap 44. 3.7 seconds was the gap between Prost and Hill at the end of that lap, and Fittipaldi going forward as they come into the Rettifilio, and again failing to get past Luca Badoa, which is where Badoa nearly lost it on the previous lap.
Yes, you can see that Badoa is very sensibly taking the inside line. He's making Fittipaldi try to go around the outside, although he's not yet done it.
Now, the thing that fascinates me, Jonathan, is that Damon is lapping 2 seconds faster than Prost at the present moment.
Yes, he does, and that's Andretti going through. Andretti.
Now, Michael Andretti is up into 4th place. Good cheer. He really deserves this, because he has had an enormous amount of criticism, both from his own side of the Atlantic and this side, and he has consistently kept his head down, and he has not responded rudely to all the criticisms that he's had, which he might well have done. Underneath this failure so far, because for whatever reason that's what it's been, has been a very determined driver who has won 27 times in the Indy Series, has won the Indy Championship, and was taken on by Ron Dennis as a forceful charger, which is what he's proving to be in this race.
Yes, indeed. It's interesting to note that Andretti uses the full potential of the McLaren semi-automatic gearbox, and this means that he lets the gearbox work automatically, changing up and down, so he never touches the lever at all.
And we need to look at the leaders now, because Damon Hill is 1.7 seconds behind Alain Prost, and they're on lap 46 out of 53. The closing stages of the Italian Grand Prix are going to be really something. So Prost is leading just. Hill is 2nd, Alesi is 3rd, Andretti is up into 4th place. There is Damon Hill chasing Alain Prost. 5th is Wendlinger, 6th is Patrese, 7th is Martini, 8th is Comas, 9th is Lamy. But let's concentrate on this. This is the battle for the lead. Alain Prost must surely have some sort of trouble. This is lap 46, and there are few laps left to go. There are 7 laps to go, including the one that they're on. And Alain Prost, I think, is going to lose the lead to Damon Hill after they come out of the Parabolica, because there are no team orders, and Damon is in with a shout to take the lead in the Italian Grand Prix. He's right up behind the rear wing of Alain Prost now. Prost knows it, moves across. He's entitled to do that, to take his line into the Parabolica. These two are not going to do anything silly. They're teammates, they're good friends, but this is a real battle. Make no mistake about it. So Prost goes through. He's about to complete his 46th lap. The crowd is cheering, the crowd is waving. I have seen this crowd both cheer Alain Prost home when he drove for Ferrari, and I've seen them as he walked back after having retired in the lead in a rival make, as far as they were concerned, have empty cans thrown at him. But Prost knows that the battle's on now. We're riding with Damon Hill. You can see the gap there, 0.6 of a second, but it's a visual gap. That's what matters. This is the Roja. This is the second chicane. Now they go up into the fearsome Lesmos. Fourth gear, 150. Lesmo 1. Up into fifth gear for 160 miles an hour at Lesmo 2. Then into the sweeping left-hander, which leads to the Ascari chicane. And I remind you that Damon Hill has taken 18 seconds of lead out of Alain Prost. In fact, over that, 19 seconds of lead after his tyre stop, after his second tyre stop.
Damon Hill, clearly the fastest man on the track at the moment. Very much got the bit between his teeth, but of course it's one thing catching up, it's another thing overtaking, and particularly when you are teammates and when there are no team orders, because you cannot afford to take the other guy off. Therefore, you have to be slightly less aggressive. Now, this is where Hill needs to be right behind Prost if he's going to have a chance of being in the tow, which he's clearly not. He's clearly far too far behind to have a chance of going by on this lap. Maybe he's backed off a little bit to let his tyres recover. He was obviously charging very hard. Let's just see how the next few laps develop.
And there's traffic ahead of them, and as you well know, this can affect the race because it's one of the Larousses chasing Philippe Alliot, who is in 12th position, and he seems to have got ahead of Bader because he's right behind Fittipaldi now, who had passed the Italian. There's Fittipaldi and Eric Comas behind him, and Prost has got to get past, first of all, the Larousse and then the Minardi, and he'll hope to do that and put them between his car and Damon Hill's. We're on lap 48 out of 53.
Absolutely, that's just the kind of thing that Damon's going to want. He'll know that Prost has got these two slower cars ahead of him. He's going to hope that they actually hold him up through Ascari, and I'm sure they will. They're coming down to Ascari now, and I suspect Prost will have to follow those through too. And then, yes, now Prost, yeah, he's following through Ascari here, 100 miles an hour, fourth gear, coming round, and although he doesn't look that close, they are undoubtedly slowing him up. Now, look at the gap. The gap is visibly closer. This could be the chance that Damon needs to get, if he can get by these two slower cars, past the Minardi, past the Larousse, and it's a big mobile traffic jam here, because he needs to get right on that tail through Parabolica. No, he's not done it. He wasn't close enough. He couldn't get past the Minardi through Parabolica. He's coming alongside now, but it's too late to get the tow again from Alain Prost, and he needs that tow to get by.
We're with Damon Hill, and he can see Alain Prost passing Eric Comas's Larousse. He's done it. So Prost goes into the Rettifilo, the double chicane in front of the Larousse, the Minardi and his teammate Damon Hill, and Alain Prost is now on his 49th lap out of 53, and there's an engine. What happened? Is that Prost? Yes, it is Alain Prost, a great plume of smoke from the Williams, and Damon Hill is surely going to go through into the lead. There's Comas, he's gone through. We need to have a look at Damon Hill, because Alain Prost, just as Ayrton Senna did those years back, not once but twice, is retiring in the closing stages of the Italian Grand Prix, and Damon Hill goes into the lead. We need to see the Englishman. We're with Damon Hill now in the Williams. Now, this is a replay, and Damon will have seen that great plume of smoke from Prost's Renault engine, and that put oil, incidentally, all over the camera lens and potentially his visor. This is Alain Prost touring in. The World Championship is not going to be decided here today at Monza.
Well, devastating that may well be, and certainly is for Alain Prost. One really must question his wisdom of driving around the circuit. You can see the oil coming out of the car, and in fact, I think I saw Fittipaldi gesture to him. If it was another driver, he would not be happy with it. Just because it's lost him the lead, lost him, or certainly delayed his winning of the World Championship, is not a reason to continue driving around the circuit like that. And as we said earlier on, that he'd be concerned about the fact that he had to finish the race, those remarks certainly weren't meant to be prophetic, clearly, but it just shows you how pressurised Formula One is, how delicate, and of course how unpredictable.
And into lap 50 with laps 51, 52 and 53 to the lead goes Damon Hill as a sad, disillusioned Alain Prost climbs out of his Williams, knowing that the World Championship that he wanted so much, the 4th World Championship, is not going to be his in Monza. So it's going to go on to be decided in Portugal or Japan or even Australia. The last race of the season on November the 4th at Adelaide. And up into second place gallantly comes the Ferrari of Jean Alesi. He deserves it. The crowd are going mad because they will regard this almost effectively as a Ferrari victory, because people don't expect to beat the Williams these days. But Jean Alesi is now 44 seconds behind Damon Hill. He's got absolutely no chance of catching him on speed, on ability, or on anything else, provided Damon does not have a problem, which pray he does not. And the Englishman now is on his 50th lap. I remind you that he's won both the previous Grand Prix in Belgium and in Hungary.
Well, as we run now with Michael Andretti, of course, he's now in 3rd place. And interestingly, I was speaking to him before the race for a presentation, in fact, and asking him what sort of results. Do you see him running wide there? He's running wide of that oil laid down by Prost on your right-hand side of the track. You can see it. He's seen it. Andretti's seen it. He's running wide. Andretti actually felt that he was on for a top 3 finish today, which seemed pretty optimistic to me at the time, but it just shows you can never tell. Motor racing, particular Formula One level, in absolutely anything can happen, and most things have happened here today.
Yes, and at the present moment, a Williams leads, a Ferrari is second, a McLaren is in 3rd position, Wendlinger is in 4th. Over the chicane and the gravel trap goes the Lola of Luca Badoer, and Alain Prost walks in, and Damon Hill is now on his 51st lap.
There's no doubt that's absolutely cruel luck for Prost. You know, he's somebody who is normally recognised as being so careful with his equipment, and we know only too well, often too careful, hence the stall, the hesitant starts, that kind of thing. But he also tends to use less revs than his teammate. The rev limit on the Williams, Renault, or the Renault engine on the Williams, is around about 14,500 revs, and Prost never pushes the engine quite as hard as his teammates, be it Nigel Mansell or rather be it Damon Hill. You know, he doesn't push it that hard. We've had 2 engine blow-ups at Silverstone and at Barcelona for Damon Hill, and at this time it seems that it's Prost's turn to have a bit of bad luck on the front of engine reliability.
There are 14 cars left out of the 26 who started for the Italian Grand Prix. The leader is on lap 51 out of 53, and the leader is Damon Hill. In fact, he's now on lap 52. He's on his penultimate lap as the man in second place, Jean Alesi, in the Ferrari. And this is going to be the highest Ferrari finish this season, because Alesi finished in 3rd position at Monaco, and that was their only previous rostrum place. So Alesi looking good, but Damon Hill, 0 in that famous helmet with the colours of the London Rowing Club, as his great father, world champion Graham Hill, also used to carry, is now on his last lap but one. A potential winner for the 3rd time running, as out of the Italian Grand Prix goes the 2nd Lotus, that of Pedro Lamy. Jean Alesi is 2nd, Michael Andretti a well-deserved 3rd, Wendlinger is 4th, Patrese is 5th, Comas is in the points at 6th place, and Damon Hill has only got what is left of this lap as he exits the Ascari bends and drives down to the Parabolica, and the following lap to go.
Yes, an absolutely superb result looking on the cards for Damon Hill, but we all know the dangers of predicting anything. And one really can wonder whether or not Damon pushing so well, so hard, actually provoked Prost into using his car harder, getting that bit more out of the engine, which just tipped it over that fine balance. Whatever way, Damon has driven really at this point a faultless race. I don't think that earlier mistake or that earlier incident with Senna was down to him. I think it was down to Senna, and a hat-trick of victories is quite magnificent for him.
Ultimo Giro, and Damon Hill is on it. The last lap, the 53rd 3.6 mile lap of this historic circuit at Monza, and the potential in just a few seconds' time of a third successive victory, a hat-trick. And Damon said to me yesterday, I want to win this race just as much as I wanted to win in Belgium, just as much as I wanted to win in Hungary. Let us remind ourselves, too, that Damon failed to win in Germany and in Britain through no fault of his own. He could have won 5 Grand Prix, maybe even 6 if you include Spain this year. And if anybody has demonstrated time and time and time again that he deserves to be where he is now next year in the second Williams, it is Damon Hill. He exits the Ascari Benz for the last time. He comes down to the Parabolica for the last time, with Alesi second, Andretti third, Wendlinger fourth, Patrese fifth, Comas sixth, Martini seventh, Fittipaldi eighth, Alio ninth, and Badoa 10th. And Damon Hill exits the Parabolica. He's into the last straight now. He waves his hand, and Damon Hill wins in Italy, as he won in Belgium, as he won in Hungary. That gives him another 10 World Championship points and takes him back into second place in the World Championship, ahead of Senna, but behind Alain Prost. Well, and Christian Fittipaldi with that wheel off. My goodness, a dramatic finish in Italy as the Minardi rolls along on 3 wheels. Alesi exits the Parabolica to cheers from the Tifosi. He's going to finish in second place. The yellow flag is a warning flag to tell him that there's a problem with Fittipaldi's car in front of him. And that is Michael Andretti finishing lapped in third position, with the Minardi stranded in the middle of the circuit. And Fittipaldi, I'm confident, will be quite all right because he was in the cockpit. But the race would have been stopped, absolutely no doubt about that whatsoever, if it had been due to go on any further at all. But a famous, superb victory for Damon Hill in Italy. And this is what happened. And oh, I didn't see that. That is Fittipaldi. Oh, it's been, the two Minardis hit each other.
Yes, that was Fittipaldi there. He tried to come up, he tried to overtake Martini. He got too close in a virtual replay of the Patrese-Berger accident of the Portuguese Grand Prix in 91. He went right up in the air and absolutely, let's look at it again. He's right up behind him. That is, he's right up behind, Fittipaldi behind. He just touches, look at the car, goes up through the vertical, absolutely over, a complete 360-degree somersault, back on more or less its wheels. What an amazingly miraculous escape there. The car comes down. That would have all happened at 190 miles an hour with no exaggeration whatsoever. Thank goodness Fittipaldi's all right, but it just shows the problems or the dangers with these open-wheeler cars. When they touch wheels, that launches them up into the air so very quickly indeed. A very pleased to see Alesi there. He's had a lonely race, but what a tremendous effort there to actually finish there. He's not finished at Monza for some time, and a great result for Ferrari.
And an even greater result for Williams, and where this is a replay of Damon Hill. Thumbs up from the Englishman. A very appropriate gesture, because this could not have been a better day, a better race for Damon Hill. It's a long time since, well, I can't ever remember a new driver. Here's a replay again of Fittipaldi coming up behind Martini.
Yes, I think this really was just simple driver error on the part of Fittipaldi. You know, one has to get very close indeed, particularly with two evenly matched cars. It's possible that they were going into sixth gear, but it looks a bit late for that. There should not have been a gear change there. If there had been a gear change, one might have postulated that Martini missed the gear. That momentarily slowed him up, which caused Fittipaldi to go into the back. But I don't think they would be gear changing. Therefore, it's simply Fittipaldi running up the back of his teammate.
Yes, and it wasn't, quotes, unnecessary, close quotes, in terms of him being several laps behind Martini. They were on the same lap, and Fittipaldi was actually fighting for the place when he came up behind Martini. So, as you watch John Alesi with the Ferrari flag waving triumphantly, almost triumphantly behind him, it's a triumph for Ferrari because they've done extremely well at Monza. But the ultimate triumph as Damon Hill for Williams gets ready to get up on the rostrum, and we follow the traditional Monza procedure of the crowd invading the course, the enthusiastic tifosi. And that's the confirmation of Damon Hill's third successive victory. A magnificent drive. And as Jonathan hypothesised, I think he just pushed Alain Prost so hard that the Frenchman had to go quicker than he really wanted to. Jean Alesi finishes 40 seconds behind in second place. Michael Andretti, his first Formula One Grand Prix rostrum position. 4 points for Andretti, 4 points for McLaren, but more than that, a wonderful uplift for Michael Andretti, and hopefully he can put the unsuccessful previous 12 races behind him and concentrate now on doing even better than he has done today. In fourth position, the Sauber of Carl Wendlinger. Fifth, Patrese. Sixth, Comas. So that means 6 different constructors in the first 6 places. A Williams wins, a Ferrari second, a McLaren third, a Sauber fourth, a Benetton fifth, and a Larousse in 6th position. And Minardi is again on this replay hit by Fittipaldi.
Yes, you can see that the left front wing had gone. There's the car comes over. Look, the left front wing has already gone on the car. He pulled out just a bit too late. That was the situation there.
So the top 10 again, with the crowd waiting for their heroes to appear on the rostrum as Fittipaldi slides to a standstill in the middle of the circuit. I can tell you that he's walking about. He's perfectly okay. Another testimony to the amazing strength and the design characteristics of the modern Grand Prix car, which can take a 200-mile-an-hour battering, as did Gerhard Berger's Ferrari yesterday, and as did Sandro Zanardi's Lotus in Belgium, with the driver emerging virtually unhurt.
Looking at the World Championship table now, with Prost on 81, Hill on 58, I'm sure that Damon's going to be just reflecting what might have been had he not had those failures in Spain, but particularly in Hockenheim with the tyre and at Silverstone with the engine, because without that he could very easily have been leading the World Championship in his first full season of Grand Prix racing. But there again, of course, you know, we can all say that, or rather I can't, but certainly many other drivers could when they've had mistakes or when they've had misfortune. But either way, I'm sure he's got a lot more time and many more years of success to win World Championships.
Yes, and again, Minardi hits Minardi, Fittipaldi hits Martini, who nevertheless went on to finish in 7th position after having been assaulted unwittingly by his teammate. You can't blame Fittipaldi for trying, because he had the prospect of finishing a place ahead, and the Minardi team are desperately strapped for money. They are merging with Scuderia Italia, that is the Lola team this year, in 1994. They're said to be continuing to use Ford engines, and they're said to have a very good sponsorship package behind them. And by the way, Benetton have announced here today that they have a massive new sponsorship pattern for 1994, so the omens are good for them. Damon Hill wins in Italy. He wins for the 3rd time this year to move up into 2nd place in the World Championship. And this is the very, very best that Damon could have hoped for, to finish 2nd, potentially to Prost. But let us not forget that Damon Hill, with his arms outstretched, is still in the running for the World Championship, because he's now on 58 points to Alain Prost 21. There are 30 points still left to gain, and Damon Hill could yet be, it's unlikely, but he could still yet be the world champion. On his left, with the Ferrari flag around him, for his 2nd place, Jean Alesi. On the right, Michael Andretti smiling and looking, frankly, as though he can hardly believe it's true, because if there's one place that he would have wanted to finish in the rostrum, it must surely have been here at Monza, this historic circuit. up from Damon Hill. Congratulations to Jean Alesi. And from Britain, congratulations to Damon Hill. Frankly, if you'd asked me to forecast the result of this race before it began, I would have unhesitatingly said Prost for a victory, probably Damon Hill for second place. I'm delighted for Damon that I would have been wrong. I'm sorry for Alain, but with 3 World Championships behind him and 51 Grand Prix wins, I'm quite sure he wouldn't grudge it to Damon. And if he had to lose to anybody, it would have been to his teammate there. They are great friends. And Jean Alesi looking justifiably satisfied. That's his highest finish this year. It's also Michael Andretti's highest finish this year, because the previous highest that the American had finished was 5th place in Spain. And there is that astounding sight of thousands and thousands and thousands of Ferrari-loving Italians massing the circuit, which not so very long ago was being occupied by snarling 207-mile-an-hour motor cars going across this very spot. It's been a happy day for Italy, it's been a happy day for the Tifosi, it's been a happy day for Ferrari, but it's been an even happier day for Great Britain, for Williams and for Damon Hill with that 3rd successive victory. The prancing horse of Ferrari is about to get a dousing, or was about to get a dousing. I think Damon Hill has mistimed something for the first time today, because he actually squirted some champagne into his eye, now some into his mouth, and the crowd is going to get the rest, as they are already doing, from Alesi. And Michael Andretti seems to be saving his to savour afterwards. A confirmation then that Damon Hill has won, 3rd time running. A win in Belgium before this, that was his 2nd win. Some people regarded his 1st win in Hungary as being lucky and said it was by default. I certainly don't agree with them, because Damon drove a superb race against himself, although Prost, Senna and Schumacher, his main rivals, were out of the running. He then drove an absolutely magnificent race to win with absolutely no doubt about his ability in Belgium, and he's done the same thing here in Italy.
Yes, I think one of the great things about Damon's performances in recent Grand Prix, particularly Belgium and here in Italy, is that when the chips seem to have been down a bit, and both at Spa and Monza, the first half of the race, or the first third of the race perhaps, at least on the first set of tyres, he's been a little bit behind Prost. He's been fighting hard. I'm quite sure he didn't want to be that far behind Prost, but he doesn't give up when he gets his 2nd set of tyres on, which I'm sure is entirely coincidental, but basically as the race goes on, he keeps the pressure on. He's absolutely focused with gritty determination on the result that he wants. He knew that he had to win the race here today to really feel satisfied at the end of it. 2nd place would not have been good enough. Now, I'm quite sure that he would have liked to have beaten Prost on the road, but clearly that was totally out of his hands. But he pressurised Prost in a way that I'm sure Prost had no idea was going to come, and the result, I'm sure, was absolutely justified. A very, very worthy result, but he does just keep fighting, and I'm sure it's that tenacity which will carry him through now to more success. And it's not even impossible that Damon Hill could win the World Championship this year.
Yes, he's only 23 points behind Alain Prost now. Prost on 81 and Hill on 58. And with 30 points still left for the races, 10 each from Portugal in 2 weeks' time, from Japan and from Australia, it's by no means inconceivable that another Hill could become the world championship, as his become the world champion, as his father Graham was before him. But that's a long shot, but then you would have said it was a very long shot for Damon Hill to win here in Italy by 40 seconds. You probably would have said it was a long shot for Alesi to finish in 2nd place. But just a reminder that Ayrton Senna retired, and here, as I say the words, look at this replay with Senna and Schumacher colliding. It's Senna and Hill, it's not Schumacher. Senna and Hill, with Schumacher behind them, about to capitalise on it and move up into 3rd place.
Yes, looking at that again, it's very hard to say, you know, just whose fault these things were. 2 cars side by side through a left-right chicane complex, and just bear in mind too that the difference from going, or the time gap from going hard left, hard right, is just 1/2 a second, so it all happens very quickly. and it's very narrow. The braking is difficult too, because these chaps have to judge braking distance from 200 miles an hour right down to 60 miles an hour into there, and that is it just takes them 2 seconds. 2 seconds from 200 down to 60. So it's difficult to keep perspective, particularly difficult on that first lap when the grid is full of cars. You've got cars all over the place, all trying to judge the limit. Some of them on the right racing line, some of them on the marbles. And as we heard from Derek Warwick, people do get carried away. Sadly, Derek was one of the casualties of that. But it is a difficult situation. And it's always very hard, and I'm sure in that situation between Hill and Senna, each will tend to blame the other, with neither being truly culpable.
And 3 potential winners retired from the Italian Grand Prix, 4 in a way, because Alain Prost out, Michael Schumacher out, Ayrton Senna out, and on the Ferrari showing in the practice, it wasn't inconceivable that Gerhard Berger could have repeated his victory of 1988 and winning here at Monza. But in the end, it was Damon Hill.
I think we should spare a thought and some sympathy to, and congratulations to Michael Andretti. He has had a very difficult season. One cannot test these cars. He's had a good weekend altogether. This race result is not just a fluke at the end of another difficult weekend for him. He's been good in qualifying, better in the warm-up, and better still in the race.
And down there in the interview room, Martin Whittaker will be talking to very shortly Michael Andretti on the left, Jean Alesi on the right, and most importantly, the winner, Damon Hill, in the centre, looking as calm and relaxed as ever. 3rd successive win. Fabulous. Big smile. There's 2 different faces up there. We haven't seen either of them in the interview room together. Well, we haven't seen them together, Andretti and Alesi. Alesi, of course, has been there once this year for his 3rd place at Monaco. Michael Andretti, it's a new experience. An experience he's very used to in Indy racing in America, with success after success behind him, certainly regarded as one of the top Indy drivers of all time.
Grand Prix this afternoon, a win that completes a hat-trick and moves you into 2nd place in the championship. I think the majority of people came here expecting Prost to walk away with the championship here this afternoon. In actual fact, your win puts you in with a strong chance of clinching that championship from him.
Well, I mean, I didn't really consider the championship implications. I mean, I just had a bit of a problem at the start with Senna, and ended up going over a few curbs, and I really had my work cut out to get through the traffic. And I caught up with Alan, and then I got some information that we were getting into trouble with temperatures, and so I had to ease off a bit. And then his engine blew up, and I couldn't see a blooming thing. I'll tell you, it was absolute. I was blinded totally by the oil and stuff, and the car started to slide around, and a bit of a hairy moment. But naturally, of course, that was, you know, I was delighted. I felt it was obviously rough for Alan, but you know, it meant that I was leading the race with a healthy lead.
Were you concerned that there was any damage to the car after that first lap incident with Senna?
I was actually, because it was quite a heavy knock. And also went over the curbs, where it probably didn't do the floor of the car much good. But you know, it was a terrific race for me. I just had loads of people to overtake, and that's really what is nice about racing. You know, that you have to size up the opposition. Of course, I got a car advantage, which makes it a little easier, but it's still nice to pass people.
Well, it was certainly a race that came alive, and for you, Jean Alesi, the highest finish for Ferrari this season, on the back of a tremendous weekend for you in particular, and a result which has really given the Tifosi something to celebrate.
You know, for us it was a really important weekend. We are in Italy. We work a lot, just especially for this Grand Prix. We put everything, new engines, new software for the suspension, and we work like if it was a final for the football cup, you know. So to finish on the podium like that, well, of course, I had some luck, but that is a part of my job. But I'm very pleased for all my team.
How much is this passionate Italian support for Ferrari here worth to you as a driver?
You have to be very careful. It's my 3rd year in Ferrari. At the beginning, I was a little bit worried. And now this support, this this all these supporters for me, it's a big support, and that helped a lot.
And with Gerhard failing, were you concerned about the car lasting the distance?
I didn't see what he had.
Turning to you, Michael, many congratulations in a year which has proved diabolical as far as luck is concerned. Your first podium finish, third place here, you must be ecstatic.
Well, I am. It didn't look like it was going to happen after, I think, the second lap when I made a mistake, a spun, and then we had to make a pit stop, and it took a while to get all the grass out of the radiators and everything, so it was a tough race, you know, but we just went back at it and fought hard and hoped for a little bit of attrition and a little bit of luck, and that's exactly what happened.
Well, it was a great fight back. What really happened in that first corner to you?
The first corner, or that wasn't the one. It was in the second chicane is where I had problems, and it was, I think, on the second lap is where I spun. The first corner was a bit of a job getting through there. There was cars going all over, spinning, and lots of gravel all over. But we made it through that. But then I made a mistake later on in the lap, so you know, it was just bad luck.
Well, Michael, it's a long time coming, but this third place must have an influence on your Formula One career.
Well, we'll see. You know, it's definitely nice to do it, and I think it's really nice and special to do it here in Monza. You know, this is definitely a special place, and it's nice to finally get a podium and do it here.
Turning back to you, Jean, there must be some words that you want to say, probably both in French and Italian, to your